Are you ready to see Texas like you've never seen it before? Because today, we're diving into legendary tales of transformation so wild, so jaw-dropping, they could only happen here in the Lone Star State. I'm talking desert ghost towns that are now hipster havens, small cattle ranches turned into booming cities, and buildings older than your grandpappy given a brand new lease on life. If you think you know Texas, well, buckle up, partner. These are Texas' most extreme makeovers. Howdy, y'all. Welcome back to the Lone Star Plate, where we serve up all things Texas with a side of sass and a heaping helping of homegrown pride. Today's episode is all about the most surprising, over-the-top, and downright fascinating transformations in Texas history. By the end, you'll see that in Texas, the story doesn't just get rewritten, it gets rebuilt from the ground up, with a little extra BBQ sauce on top. So, why should you keep watching? Because each one of these transformations carries a story that's as big as Texas itself. Some were born from hope, others were sparked by desperation, a few were fueled by pure Texas grit, and the results? Well, let's just say they'll have you rethinking everything you thought you knew about this wild, wonderful state. Let's kick things off with a place you've probably seen pop up on Instagram lately, Marfa. Once upon a time, Marfa was just a sleepy, sun-baked dot on the map, tucked away in far west Texas, population barely 1,000 strong. The town was a blip, originally a water stop for the railroad, then a backdrop for some classic westerns. By the 1970s, Marfa was just about as forgotten as you can get. But here comes the twist. In the 1980s, New York artist Donald Judd rolled into town, fell in love with the emptiness, and turned Marfa into a mecca for contemporary art. Suddenly, celebrities, hipsters, and art lovers from around the globe flocked here to see giant concrete installations and a Prada storefront in the middle of nowhere. You can't make this stuff up. Marfa went from ghost town to global art destination without ever losing its small town soul. That's Texas magic right there. But let's get bigger. You know that mighty city sitting on the Gulf called Houston? Hard to believe, but it was once a soggy, mosquito-ridden patch of muddy bayou. In the 1830s, it was a speculative bet for a couple of New York brothers, Augustus and John Allen, who figured they could make a quick buck off the new Republic of Texas. Nobody took them seriously, but oil was struck, space came calling, and the world took notice. Today, Houston is the fourth largest city in the U.S., home to NASA, one of the most diverse populations anywhere, and a food scene that'll blow your boots off. From muddy swamp to space city, that's a makeover that only Texas could pull off. And speaking of epic transformations, let's mosey over to Dallas's Deep Ellum. Once, this eastern stretch of downtown was a hub for jazz and blues, where music greats like Blind Lemon Jefferson and Lead Belly drew crowds through the 1920s and 30s. But when Prohibition ended and highways plowed through, Deep Ellum was left in the dust. Empty warehouses, shuttered bars, run down everything. Honestly, it got so rough that even most Texans wrote it off. But the spirit of Deep Ellum wouldn't die. Artists and entrepreneurs staked their claim in the 80s, murals sprang up, and live music returned louder than ever. Today, Deep Ellum's a living canvas, a riot of art, food, tattoo shops, and some of the best live music anywhere. It's proof that in Texas, a place can fall and rise again, cooler than ever. Now, let's wrangle things out in the wilds of hill country with the story of Luckenbach. If you blink, you'll miss it. Just a store, a post office, and a dance hall about as old as Texas itself. Back in the 70s, Luckenbach was barely hanging on, all but forgotten until a group of friends, including the legendary Hondo Crouch, bought the whole town as a joke. They turned it into a haven for music, throwing some of the wildest parties you've ever seen. Then Waylon Jennings dropped a song telling the world about Luckenbach, and the rest is Texas history. A spot for real-deal country music, cold beers, and good folks looking for a slice of old Texas charm. All from a town that once sat empty and abandoned. Let's switch gears for a second and talk buildings, because here in Texas, we don't just tear them down. Sometimes we give them a second act they never saw coming. Take the Driscoll Hotel in Austin. Built in 1886, it survived economic busts, city fires, and the threat of the wrecking ball. In the 1960s, folks rallied to save it from being demolished, raising funds, sharing memories, and fighting for its survival tooth and nail. Today, the Driscoll stands proud as one of the city's crown jewels, haunted by legends and topped with some of the finest Texas cuisine you'll taste. Or how about the Pearl District in San Antonio? What once was a defunct brewery collecting dust and graffiti is now a bustling hotspot, overflowing with funky apartments, restaurants, a farmer's market, and even a culinary institute shaping Texas' future chefs. The brick walls echo with new stories now, proof that in Texas, old bones can dance again when given half a chance. Want another twist? Let's talk water. The town of Granbury was stuck in a drought, its economy drying up along with the river, until they dammed the Brazos and created Lake Granbury, transforming a dying spot into a vibrant lakeside community where folks fish, boat, and party year-round. From Dust Bowl to destination, now that's a Texas turnaround. And just when you think you've seen it all, the biggest makeover yet, the people. Decades ago, Texas was seen as a far-flung frontier. Today, it's the second most populated state, drawing newcomers from every corner of the globe who fall in love with that big sky, booming cities, and small-town charm. Every new Texan adds a fresh verse to the Lone Star story, making sure the next transformation is always just around the corner. Hey y'all, let me know in the comments. What's your favorite Texas transformation? Is it a city, a building, or maybe a person you know who had a real Texas-sized comeback story? Don't forget to hit that like button, wrangle yourself a subscription, and ring the bell so you never miss a bite of the Lone Star plate. Because here's the thing, Texas never stands still, and neither should you. Remember, in the Lone Star State, if something ain't working out, there's always room for a comeback. That's the Texas way. Until next time, keep it spicy, keep it bold, and above all, keep it Texan. Yee-haw!